Goodwill Podcasting. Your hosts, Stone, Dan, and Connor.
All right, guys, Goodwill Podcasting. Today it's just me and Stone. Connor is out with some personal stuff. He will be back. We'll let him talk about what's going on, some exciting stuff with Connor. But we have a great guest tonight. We're going to be talking about Luca Guadagnino. Challengers just came out. We're going over Bones and All, Suspiria, Call Me By Your Name as well. Jack Nerd is with us. You want to introduce yourself really quick? Happy to have you here.
Yo, everybody, what's up? It's your boy Jack Nerd. You already know.
Yeah, and are you just on TikTok? Or are you other places? Can people find you anywhere else?
I'm on TikTok. My letterbox is also at Jack Nerd. If you guys want to give me a follow on there, I'm currently trying to get the Twitter and Instagram rolling. I've been slacking for like the longest time, but those will be up soon. So
supposedly we got 9 months. Supposedly 9 months is what we got on TikTok last.
Yeah, no, that shit's gonna get appealed, and then it's just gonna be like a political tool for someone to fix eventually, I think. But we'll see. Instagram's tough, man. It's so much slower getting rolling over there. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit quickly about how you got started, like how you got started getting into film, where that kind of came from for you, and then what your journey's kind of been like as a creator, how your stuff has changed over time, just like what it's been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been watching films. I'm an advocate that I saw The Dark Knight in the theater in 2008. That's like my holy grail right there. But it was really during COVID, during like 2021, where I really dove deep into cinema, and I started off with like most of the MCU projects and the comic book space. And it wasn't until about last year until I started to branch out into some highly acclaimed bangers and just really broaden my horizon and taste when it comes to cinema. And I started posting TikTok back in 2022. There was a lot of Marvel content, a lot of DC content. But yeah, now the train has been rolling and we're pretty much watching everything. I got a pretty open mind, and I've been watching your content, Dan, for a while now, and even Chuck. Shout out to Chuck. He always gives me some great horror recommendations. But yeah, I'm always just trying to expand the taste and what I'm watching.
I'm curious with your what you used to post about with DC and Marvel, and then posting a lot more about acclaimed films. Like I saw, I don't know if it was today. Did you post something about Spencer with Kirsten Stewart?
Yeah, I watched that last night, and oh my god, dude, that film is living in my head rent free, even right now as we're speaking.
How is your like following? Like, how did it go from transitioning from more genre based to like broadening your horizon when it came to film?
I mean, I'll tell you what, when the TikTok, when they switched the creator program to like, I believe it's the beta program now, where you have to like do videos over a minute to really gain traction with the algorithm and on the For You page. It's been tough. I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of creators have felt the same way, but my bread and butter back in the day where I got started was 7-second to 12-second videos where you say nothing and you point over your head, and it was corny and cheesy, but it's like now it's a little bit tougher to do the videos that are a minute long. And I feel like views have been a little suppressed and kind of like a little bit lower than usual, but I love the transition, man. I feel like it just broadens broadens my horizon to be more creative when I'm making content. And there's so many different creators out there now who are inspiring me just to approach my content in a different way. So it's awesome. It's been a tough transition, but I'm keeping it pushing. That's it.
And the thing is, I feel like that's also cool. Just thinking about it is like, I feel like with Marvel and DC, like your content can end in a way. Like you can only watch so much. There's only so many movies, but then if you broaden that, which you have, it's like it's endless kind of a thing. You can go on forever.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like the highly acclaimed kind of like film talk space is definitely very niche. It's not as big as the Marvel space, but that's our job. We got to expand it. We're trying to expand it. We're trying to get more recognition to film talkers like us who aren't just talking about Marvel films. So it's great. But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's fun to I like to do both. Like I like everything. Like I think that's I don't like putting myself in a box and say, okay, I'm just going to talk about this. I'm just going to talk about this. Like I want to talk about everything. Like I feel like it's more fun too, and it allows you to I'll talk about whatever. I'll go wherever my brain takes me. But I feel like if you just get stuck in a niche, you can get stuck in a rut, like content wise too. Especially as like you said, I think it's gearing more towards like longer form stuff. Like people, as you gain trust for people, they want to hear you talk about stuff. They don't want to just hear you like, say a couple words here and there. So I think it's exciting, but also challenging. Who are some people I guess you kind of like look up to in the space the most, do you think?
When I started out, I was a really big fan of like C-Jacks, Lex reviews, all the comic stuff. But I mean, right now I watch George movies and stuff's content. Dan, I'm a big fan of your content, man. You've been pumping it out like crazy lately. Shout out to you, bro. Your format is just awesome. Every time I see one of your videos, like I watch the whole thing, and it's just I'm engaged, I'm locked in. So, but other than that, you got the Tyler Whitmores out there, the world. I've actually really been enjoying K Meeks. His content recently been popping up on my For You page, a little bit of Owen's content here and there, but there's so many creators who are so original and the way that they approach their content and just the way that they their outlook on art and film in general. There's so many that like I could just pull inspiration from everybody. I think it's great. It's such a great space, and I've connected with so many different people in a positive way. There's been negative interactions as well, as we all know, and I think the film talk space has been beefing a little bit as of recently, but yeah, it's all love at the end of the day, nothing personal, and yeah, just shout out to everybody doing it, man, and everybody keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. What was to kind of get into Luca, what was your introduction to him? Like, what was the first thing you saw? And I guess like, how has your feelings on him kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, my the first Luca film that I saw was Bones and All. And to this day, it is still my favorite, Luca Guadagnino.
Wow.
Just outstanding. I'm a bit of a sicko, dude. I've seen this movie like 3 times in under a year. And I know the subject matter is like super toxic and repulsive, but for me, like the character journey and the romance coming of age element kind of just like overshadows it. And I think the screenplay is like damn near flawless. I absolutely love the score. The cinematography. Timothy Chalamet is one of my favorite actors. Shout out to Taylor Russell, one of the best young working actresses in Hollywood right now. And yeah, I just think it's got a shit ton of rewatchability. Like I love the whole character journey element. That was my first Luca that I watched. And I've seen 5 Luca Guadagnino films now, and I would go on record and say he might be one of my favorite directors working today, for sure.
What's the 5th one you watched? Is it A Bigger Splash? Because I know we're talking about the 4 today.
Yeah, I saw The Bigger Splash. We're talking about Suspiria, Call Me by Your Name, Challengers, and Bones and All, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I saw The Bigger Splash actually like 2 weeks ago, and I've gone on record and said I think that movie's like Call Me by Your Name before Call Me by Your Name.
Interesting.
He's got a very definitive style, and he's so artsy and stylistic with all his movies, and I just really love him as a director. I'm tuned in for anything that he's coming out with now.
Yeah, I know we're going to be talking. It's so, even though Challengers is, you can see a lot of his style and what subject matter he usually talks about in the film. It is so different tonally. Like, I feel like when watching Call Me by Your Name, Suspiria, and Bones and All, they're all really serious in tone. A lot of them, all of them, really. And then Challengers, he completely, keeping with what he usually deals with subject matter wise, besides tennis, I guess. But I don't know what got into him, why he wanted to do. It feels mainstream, but also Luca Guadagnino at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to put it.
Do you guys want to get into Call Me by Your Name?
Sure.
Quickly, cool. I guess I'll start a little bit. Do you guys think this movie has aged well? Like, do you look at it the same as when you, I guess, first saw it? I feel like, I mean, this is just an angle, but I think with everything that's happened with Armie Hammer, it feels a little weirder watching it, just because like everything about him and just all that kind of strangeness. Also, I think in the book, I know Elio's supposed to be 17, and I think he's 24. But I feel like when they shot this, Armie was 31, and like Timmy looks so young. I feel like it can feel a little strange. I think some people get stuck in that. Like, how do you guys feel about that?
You go, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, I actually am not too familiar with the whole controversy around him, but I just watching the movie the first time, I kind of got that feel. I was like, okay, this guy's a little old, and Timmy's a little young, so it's like you could put two and two together. But it didn't really affect my experience too much personally, being that I'm not too educated on the book either. But I love the movie. I think the movie's outstanding. I have it top 2 in Luca Guadagnino's filmography.
I'll say this is probably I watched this for the first time. I think you knew that, Dan. I watched this for the first time like 3 days ago.
Oh, wow.
And I automatically had the question of, I didn't really think about the fact that, because I haven't read the book, I didn't think about him being, or supposed to be 24 and that Armie Hammer is a little bit older than that. Obviously, I did notice the age gap. I very much paid attention to it, and the fact that it's set in Italy, right? So me and my wife watched it together, or she watched portions of it with me. I'm like, I guess this is allowed, and I was waiting for someone to mention his age because they say 17 at like one point in the film. So it's like, I guess this is a European thing, that you're allowed to do this. The age of consent is a little bit less over there. So I definitely paid attention to that. With everything that's happened to Armie Hammer, it's easy for me to. It is with context to the story. I don't know. It is a very intimate story, and he wasn't behaving normally when it came to intimacy. So there is that, but I'm able to forget about it, and I genuinely, this is probably my favorite film by Luca. I really enjoy it a lot. I think it's a beautiful and at the end tragic love story with a monologue. I knew no spoilers really going in, except something with a peach. I knew the peach. But like the whole monologue with his father at the end really blew me away. I think that's very different with stereotypical, homosexual films. I did not expect that at all to come out of this film. And I was trying to find what Luca was trying to tell me. And I think it's the fact that in Italy, it's so easy to fall in love just because of how beautiful everything is. If you have someone who's attractive, who's near you, just the whole setting itself, it's just easy for that to happen. And I think the way he shoots it and the scenery and putting so much detail into it, that's what he was trying to get across. And I think their relationship in the film is really effective. And we were talking about it a little bit, but Bones and All, I think this is a better relationship for me and more natural than Bones and All too. I think it's just really effective, honestly. And the ending is not surprising, but effective, I would say. And they do a good job of just making Timothy. I mean, he does look very young.
Yeah.
He probably weighs about 100 pounds in this movie.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you say that. I think I like the relationship in Bones and All more because I think it feels more like it starts with a friendship, and that friendship is based on like, there's so many other layers to it. We'll talk about it later, but there's just a lot of layers like to that, like recognition of each other and acceptance of each other. I think Call Me by Your Name, a lot of people I think watch it and just read Armie's character in a very not the best way. Like he's kind of this older guy. He's there. He might just be looking to take advantage of someone who's naive. I think there is, and Tony, you said, it's like a homosexual, like a gay story. I think he is bisexual. I think there is like he puts value into his relationship as well, and right. I think he does like physically connect with her too. But I think there's something else there. I'm literally blanking on Armie's. What's his character's name?
Let me look it up real quick. I will say what you're saying about there with that context is, I guess, yeah, it's he very much, cares about the girl as well. I guess the conversation with his dad, I feel like is more like a gay talk because his dad discloses to him that he also had a partner like him and didn't take advantage of it, or something happened there. So that's kind of where I was hinting at the fact that goes against stereotypes. Oliver.
Yeah, Oliver. Yeah, and I like that the movie, like, whereas I think Bones and All has a lot of it, there's no like negativity around like sexuality at all. Like it's all very just open and like free and just accepted. It's not like he doesn't have to hide. He's not trying to really hide it like that much. But I think with Oliver, he's someone that you see that probably has been suppressing it or pushing it down, or like in his life kind of has to hide it. And you see the way he's more like closed up and like repressed. And I don't think he like lets out his emotions like Elio does, or like lets anything out, or like shows how he feels. Like I think he might have had more of an attachment than you even realize in the movie, but he just keeps everything so like close to the chest. But I feel like you see like an older guy who's kind of been living, you know, maybe just hiding that aspect of him. I think it's interesting to see the two. Also, Elio, like, he's not the most likable cat. He is very, like, they seem very wealthy. They just kind of got shit to do. Like, he's just, like, hanging out in Italy. And I feel like there's so much boredom in that character. Not that he's not likable, but he's very, like, there is a little bit of pretentiousness. And I think that maybe is where some people get this idea of Chalamet as, like, oh, he's pretentious. Like, why? Because he played a character. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
It's interesting too, the comparison as far as the relationship aspect with Bones and all, just because with Call Me by Your Name, I'm actually kind of leaning towards that relationship between Oliver and Elio. But I think it's just because of like what the film entitles, and then if you look at Bones and all, it balances so many different themes where you got the cannibalism in there and you got the horror element, and it's really just like a character journey where they're traveling all over the states. And for me, I'm kind of leaning towards relationship. I would go Call Me by Your Name, but I think it's just safe to say at this point, especially after Challengers, where it's like, dude, give Luca Guadagnino a romance narrative, and he's about to knock it out of the park. I don't know how you guys feel about Challengers. I didn't get your opinions on that yet, but yeah, I think his romance narrative is his strong suit at this point. Even though I love Suspiria, where that's like more straight horror. But yeah, his romance narratives are really where he shines, and I think his ability to tap into emotions and feelings is really where it gets me. And Call Me by Your Name, I think what Stone said, where it's just like the setting of Italy really just elevates it, and you know, the whole European values and tendencies is a bit different, but it ends up feeling like kind of wholesome at the same time, where it's like there's a lot of tension there where they're going back and forth. It's interesting though to compare it, to be honest.
When you said living like pretentious, like his character being somewhat wealthy, I don't know why, but I thought that maybe they weren't that wealthy, because the only thing that there is Elio's father is, you know, he deals with sculptures and stuff like that, and his mother doesn't seem to have a job. But I guess one scene that sticks out to me in particular, they do have like some servants and people that help him out, but there's like a scene where Elio gets a bloody nose, and he goes to the freezer, and there's like nothing in it but like 3 frozen pork chops or something like that. Like there's nothing there. So I don't know. In a way, I don't know what the cost of living is over there. That's why I think it also aids in the fact that life is just in itself just peaceful. Like if you go to Italy and everything is so easy. So in a way it is pretentious, but not necessarily, I think, because of wealth, just because of how they can live their lifestyle. I don't know, obviously, because I haven't been there, but that's kind of that's one thing that stuck out in particular to me.
I think in the book they do have wealth.
Okay.
And it's just like he's had time to like learn all this music and learn about art and history and just kind of like take in, like they're just kind of relaxing and vibing. And I feel like his boredom is like really well portrayed in the movie. There's so many scenes of him just like sunbathing and reading and playing the piano. Like he's just like enjoying it. But it does create such a relaxed feel in the movie. And I mean, his dad, I forget the actor's name, but he's excellent. That monologue is one of the best when it comes to monologues in general, I think. And it reminds me a lot of, every time I watch it, I think of Robin Williams. I feel like I could see him doing this. I feel like reminds me of Good Will Hunting a little bit. I just love that moment because it captures like everything the movie's trying to say. And it's really strong.
I get what you were saying about I feel like you think that the relationship maybe is not as strong because Oliver is closed off. Like it's more Elio that's really involved with him and obsessed with him. And that's why I think it's so good though. Because I mean, Chalamet was nominated for an Oscar for this, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes. So he's very convincing, and that also makes sense with him, you know, being very passionate with the girl as well. He's just so interested in his sexuality that he's just putting himself out there. And I feel like even maybe not only because Armie Hammer is attractive, but also the fact that he is leaving gives him more of a sense like, I need this I want to give my focus more to this because this might be the only chance I get, kind of a thing. But I think the reason why I think the relationship is so good is because of Chalamet. Yeah. Which I think in Bones and All, the focus necessarily isn't on him, but the lead actress instead. You know, he kind of takes more of a backseat than her, I feel like, in that film, Taylor Russell. But I don't know.
No, that's a good point.
I think it's interesting too. You see I feel like as I was rewatching it, I feel like I always kind of had the impression that it was more um Elio chasing after him, but like they push and pull. Like they kind of like one will kind of. I mean, it starts with the when they're having the volleyball game, and he like puts his hand on his shoulder, and then he pulls away, and then you see his girlfriend come over, and Elio like runs away from her, and you can see like there's this moment of conflict for both of them where he's like, did I overstep like boundaries here? Like it made him feel uncomfortable, and then Elio was like, how am I feeling about that? Like how am I feeling about her? It was just like a really good small moment that's subtle, but I think did a lot. But I think when he first gets there, Elio seems so like he's like whatever, like he seems disinterested, but then he kind of like I think there's like a moment of like intellectual interest, and then it's like he sees him socially interacting with those guys at the like coffee shop or whatever, like speaking Italian and like shooting the shit with them, and it's like, oh, this guy's like all right, and then he sees him like athletically, and he's like kind of just gaining this interest, and you see it like there's a sequence of scenes, and I think it's just really cool to see his perspective change, and it's like well paced and well done. I like that a lot. Um, yeah, I think it's a really really good, really really good movie. Do you guys have any problems with it?
I told well, Jack, I texted Dan about this, but I just don't believe the peach. I really don't. I went to Target today and I picked it up and I noticed the depth of the peach, and I'm just like, I just don't think that would do it for me. I don't know. Maybe if I was just,
I will say, I like. I think that scene is awesome because
it
I
makes
think
sense. It totally makes sense for the character. I just don't believe that could happen.
No, I get it, but I like when Army Hammer comes in after, and he just kind of picks it up and is like fucking with him about it, because I feel like it's a way of showing like he has so much like it's like guilt and like uncertainty. I think you can read that about a lot of things, but it's kind of put into that moment of like that's embarrassing, you know, but it's someone seeing you do something weird, some weird shit, or like something you might think is really strange and being like, nah, it's cool. It's like whatever. And I think it's just like that acceptance, even though it's a weird, funny moment, is like a cool exchange.
Yeah. Even to like somewhat bring it back to like the relationship aspect where like it's kind of like one-sided, like you said, like Elio's kind of the character chasing after him, but also the energy is kind of like being matched subtly throughout the entire film. And I find the storytelling so rewarding because it is a slow burn and it does take a while for things to actually start going. But even when he tells him like, oh, like, I forgot exactly how he said the exchange, but he's like, I hinted at it back when we were playing volleyball when I touched you on the shoulder. And it kind of makes you look back at all those subtle hints like, oh, damn, like, was he kind of matching that energy? And I think the attention to detail in his romance narratives are just outstanding. Like, that's just prime Luca right there. Like,
yeah. And I love taking probably like an hour and 10, hour 20 to like get to anything physical. Like, it's not just like, it's easy to make that kind of story, but to do it like you just said with small moments, like, and the movie is such a good it's a good movie to sit in. You're enjoying the visuals, you're enjoying the performances, so like you don't mind that slow pace. So
that's what I was talking about with Italy too. Like like you said, I like that it takes a while to get to anything physical, because I feel like for an hour and 20 minutes, he's just like, look how nice it is here. Look how easy it is just to have a good time here and just ride bicycles and swim in random ponds.
yeah.
So
yeah,
it makes me
Luca's
want to
just
go
doing
to
a commercial for his country real quick.
basically.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts on this?
I think we covered most of it. The peach, man. We'll end it off with the peach, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize this, but I was listening to a podcast, and I know we'll get the challengers, because supposedly when they go to Atlanta in that film, there's like peaches that are hinted. And I didn't see any peaches in the film, but supposedly they're in the camera, and they're supposed to be a hint back to Call Me by Your Name.
Peach Easter egg.
Yeah. As soon as they knew that they had to shoot it in Atlanta, they found ways to put peaches in the shot. I don't know where they are, but they're there.
Okay.
So
yeah, man, I need to rewatch it.
I'm gonna rewatch it this week. Yeah.
Me too.
All right, let's get into Suspiria. Suspiria's next. Jack, you want to start with your general thoughts here?
Yeah, I think I'm a good person to start. I personally prefer Luca Guadagnino Suspiria over Dario Argento Suspiria, which I love both of them. I think they're both great. But I think where the 2018 Suspiria remake by Luca really shines is how different it is in its approach and execution. And it just feels a bit more dark and bleak and gritty as far as the horror genre goes, where the first Suspiria, it's got some of the best use of color and cinematography I've seen in a film. It's so bright and vivid. And Suspiria 2018 is like a completely different thing. It's just night and day. I think Dakota Johnson is a great actress, and I think Luca Guadagnino proves that under a great script, she has great skill. I don't know who her agent is or who let her take Madam Web, but Dakota Johnson under Luca Guadagnino has been fantastic. I know we're not talking about a bigger splash, but she was also the standout in that movie amongst some Oscar-level actors. But yeah, I just think everything around Suspiria, even the, I believe it takes place in Berlin, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing that personally, even with Call Me by Your Name and Bones and all that, I love about Luca. I feel like his settings elevate his film so much. I'm a person who really loves good cinematography and an atmospheric vibe. I feel like it's the one thing that could make me feel like I'm in the movie opposed to just watching it. Like you kind of live in it. And I think that dark, gritty Berlin atmosphere and just the snow, and I just love what it did to the already great original. You could tell that Luca took a lot of inspiration and he still paid homage to certain elements, but he wanted to do his own thing, and I respect the hell out of it. I also love the soundtrack. I think the score and the musical
Tom York.
The first time I heard it, I was like, okay, I don't know if it, and then I went back and rewatched it, and some of those music cues are just outstanding in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Tom York from Radiohead, and it's so fucking good, man. Like, and I like the soundtrack in the original. It's got that kind of like that theme that kind of repeats, but it's just better in my opinion. Stone, do you want to quickly touch on it?
I'll let you basically.
Yeah. I'll get into it.
Because I watched it a while ago, and I'm currently like 1 hour into actual rewatching it.
Yep.
So I was interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Yeah, but I remember liking it and Tilda being everywhere. So
yeah, I'm gonna disagree a bit with Jack here. So I'll say this: I hadn't watched the original until I was getting ready for this. So I watched. I had watched half of Luca's a while back. I restarted that, and then I watched the original. I like Luca's better by a good amount. The original did almost nothing for me, to be completely honest. I think what I loved about it was I'll say the beginning was very strong for me. So like I like the way it opens. I like the kind of vibe it establishes. I like how it starts in the action, pulling up. You don't know what's going on. And the set designs, the production, like beautiful. I love it. But I think that only goes so far. I think you kind of get used to it after a while. And I think, first of all, I'll say, I think with the dubs, it's tough with horror because a lot of times it feels a little goofy. And a lot of these old movies are dubbed. So like these actors were from all over the world. So they're all speaking their lines in their own language. And then they would dub it afterwards with these old Italian movies. So I think with horror, it's a little tough. I think it can pull you out of like moments when it feels a little hokey. So that's one aspect of it for me. And the story, I just feel like is so. I expected more action, more kind of thrills. I feel like it takes a really long time for anything to happen, and it genuinely just did almost nothing for me, and I was really disappointed. But I know it's really well made, and I respect it, but it didn't cause me to feel uncomfortable. Lucas, on the other hand, gets an A+ in that uncomfortability. Crazy soundtrack. I think the original is too short. It's 90 minutes. I think this one is too long. I don't think it has to be 2.5 hours. I think everything they added in terms of the historical context they put on this, everything with like the German post-Holocaust national guilt, like I don't know why that stuff's in the movie. It doesn't add anything to me. I feel like it's just like put in there as like decoration. And I feel like they show these other moments in those other like historical moments for context, but it doesn't actually provide anything to the story. Like the narrative importance is just not there to me. And I feel like trying to shoehorn like German national guilt into the story just like doesn't work as it was intended, and I think it's a little bit too much of a stretch for me. I love when the movie's just getting weird as hell. I love the body horror. That's the sound design in this and Bones and All is crazy. Like Luca creates these like disgusting, like uncomfortable moments with sound that are just like really memorable. I love Tilda. I think she's amazing. I think Dakota Johnson is not should not be acting against Tilda. I feel like it just there are some moments where I don't love the script, and I feel like it feels like Dakota's just kind of like reading a line. But to praise her, I will say um, the physicality of this movie is awesome. Like they're all doing like the way they're all acting physically, I think is incredible. I think Dakota does a great job with that.
Have you done any research if she's the one? Because I watched already one scene where she's dancing. Like, is she the one dancing during like the film when she has her scenes?
I would assume yes, but
It
I'm
seemed
not.
like it was her. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the dance is fine. I know in the original movie they went. It's like about a ballet academy. In this, it's just kind of like contemporary dance, mismatch. So like, um, it's just there's some things I really like about it. Some things really take me out of it. I think it's too long. I have it at 3 stars, and I had the original at 2. I really really didn't like that movie. Um, but I appreciate this when it's just being weird and uncomfortable and not trying to do anything extra thematically, personally.
Yeah, it's interesting the comparison to the first one. It's actually where I agree with you, where it's like I feel like the first one might not have enough to unpack, and the
Yeah.
second one has maybe a bit too much. I've only seen the first Suspiria, the Luca Guadagnino Suspiria once, and I have a couple of boys who absolutely love it. My one boy has it at like a 5 out of 5, and he's seen it like 4 times. And he says when he goes back and watches it, like stuff starts to make so much sense. And he did throw a lot in there. It's interesting too with the dub. The first time I watched Dario Argento Suspiria, I watched it in English, and I didn't even realize there was a dub.
Yeah.
And I rewatched it like 2 years later. Like, actually, no, it's not in English. That was a dub. And I was like, that's a voice dub. And I was like completely shocked. I gotta give whoever did those dubs, you gotta give them a little credit. It's like, all right, they did pretty good for that Italian movie. But no, I definitely see where you're coming from when it comes to that one. I think I gotta rewatch the second one myself just to kind of unpack a bit more of those German elements that they were talking about in there. It's an interesting perspective.
Have you, Jack? Have you watched the Argento trilogy with Suspiria?
No, I haven't.
I'll say because I was telling Dan, as far as I can remember, I think that what Luca's Suspiria does is there's 3 witches in it, if I remember correctly, and I believe in the first Suspiria there's only one, and there's actually 3 films. There's Suspiria, Inferno, and then Mother of Tears. And I think what Luca did, because he knew he wasn't going to do a trilogy, is he kind of combined all those stories into one. So that's why it might feel a little bit overstuffed.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like shit like that. I mean, I'm going completely off topic, but like Beau is Afraid is one of my favorite films in the decade, and I think that film has like the most to unpack on the current decade. So I really like shit that makes you think, and I'm a big rewatch guy, as Dan knows. I commented that on your video a couple of weeks ago. So I love movies that you kind of have to go back and rewatch to think, even though it's understandable to watch it one time and be like, all right, if I don't really get all this, or if it's too much to unpack, it might not resonate with everybody. But yeah, that's interesting. I haven't seen the trilogy. I only watched the first one.
Jack, how do you feel about the I think the editing is really interesting. And like there's some times where it's just like a sequence of like kind of unsettling images, and then it just kind of snaps into another scene. And I think sometimes that didn't exactly work for me, but I feel like that's very much something that the first movie does as well.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the editing in general?
It was like a month ago that I watched it now, so it's somewhat fresh, but it didn't really take me out of it too much. I kind of felt like it kind of added to the eerie nature, and it kind of just made everything feel very weird. And then they kind of give you a little closure where, she tells her, she's like, oh, well, I send her our dreams every night. So it's like, okay. So like, I kind of get it to a certain extent. As far as visually, though, I thought the whole movie just looked absolutely sick. Like, I freaking loved it from a visual standpoint.
I will say I've watched a whole lot of horror films. I've watched a bit, but not a large majority. But that Olga scene where she gets bent like a pretzel, as
Oh,
how I see it, that's one of the most brutal and hard to watch scene. That was good. That was really good horror. That was a good idea. That's not in the original? I haven't watched the original.
no.
Okay.
No, like she gets like messed up, but it's nowhere near like that.
That was very good. Very
Yeah,
good.
I think that's the kind of shit that I really appreciate. Like that takes so much effort in terms of like the effects and like just making something. I feel like the challenge with horror is everything's been done. Like you got to do something that like people haven't seen 1,000 times, or do something in a way that feels fresh to like engage with an audience that like. I mean, we're friends with a lot of horror people. They've seen fucking thousands of these fucked up movies. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
for them to feel something, they gotta like see some shit that gets their attention. So, yeah, that stuff was really strong. And like I said, I love Tilda so much. I was glad she was in this. I think she really helps it. But
It's funny when when Jack just talked about rewatchability. I don't know why. I think I remember when I watched Suspiria the first time, I didn't know that Tilda was the dude as well, like the therapist, I believe he is. And then when I'm rewatching it right now, I mean, I'm 30, 45 minutes in. I was like, how the hell did I not realize? It looks like Tilda, but like an old dude Tilda. I don't know how I didn't like see it the first time, but
All right, well, I'll tell you what. Don't feel too bad because this is news to me. I didn't
Oh,
even
really?
I didn't even know that. So I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go rewatch it this week now and look out for that.
Yeah, Tilda plays the therapist, old man. It's
No way. What?
yeah.
That's crazy.
And then the old like I can't remember. It's like big fat witch. It's the mother, right? She plays the mother too.
Yeah, yeah.
You knew that though, right, Jack?
Yeah. No, I
Okay,
knew
okay.
that. Dude, there's so many little details in there. I actually was reading a review the day that I put it up after I put up my review for it. And there's just so much to unpack. And it's kind of a movie that you have to go back and rewatch to really understand everything to the fullest and what Luca was trying to do. I can't wait to revisit it, just talking about it with you guys.
yeah, you can't. It's a movie where you can't fucking look away. You can't look at your phone. Like you can't.
Yeah.
You have to be watching, like really, really watching, which I think is the type of stuff that sometimes today fails because people just don't fucking pay attention or don't want to pay attention. But I feel like if I go into something and I know that's how it's going to be, like I'll just set aside the time to be by myself and like really get into it. I would like to rewatch this. I could see myself liking it more. I just feel like what it did was, with a lot of the stuff, felt really surface level. But I will say also as a counterpoint, in the same way that Luca kind of pulls you into that kind of serenity and beauty of Italy in Calling by Your Name, this period of German history is so fucking dark, and there's so much like guilt and just rage and uncertainty about the future, and the country had been annihilated by war and then by treaties twice in 50 years. So like there was just so much going on, and I feel like he does capture kind of the essence of that like feeling and that darkness effectively. He is good at that, and I think just in creating his settings really well.
Yeah.
And his tone. So yeah, it's interesting, and one everyone should watch a couple times probably.
Yeah, for sure.
Any closing thoughts here, guys?
Shout out to
watch
me.
it.
Shout out to Mia Goth, bruh. The Scream Queen. No cap. Love her. Absolutely love her.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
she was good in
interesting.
this, so.
I'll say it's interesting to see her in this where she's not like the focus.
Yeah.
And be like, wow, she can act like normally. Like she could just be a solid actor, supporting actor, and not have to be the star, but still be just as good, kind of a thing.
Especially in a horror movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's get into Bones and All. Jack, I know this is your shit. If you want to get after it.
I love Bones and All, man. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have Bones and All pretty high up on my decade ranking. I watched it. I believe I saw it in theaters the first time when it came out, if I'm not mistaken. But I've seen Bones and All, I think 3 times in under a year, which might be a bit much. I might need some help. I think people should check on me or something. But yeah, no, I was telling Stone when you left before about it, where it's like the subject matter is so toxic and repulsive, but for me, like the character journey elements and the coming of age romance narrative kind of just like overshadows it, and it's become almost like a cozy watch. Like I have it in my comfort film list, which, like I said, I need help. I'm a sicko. I need help. It's that simple. But yeah, no, like I think it's got a shit ton of rewatchability. I think the screenplay is like damn near flawless. I love the sounds. I love the cinematography. Taylor Russell is one of my favorite young working actresses in Hollywood right now. I think her and Timothée Chalamet mesh so well in that movie where it's almost hard to compare Luca Guadagnino's relationships and which ones I like most because they're all so different in their own great ways. But yeah, Bones and All is one of those films where it's like I've personally never seen anything done like that before. And I think he balanced and meshed so many different themes and tones so well for me that I'm a bit personal with my reviews. Like I said, rewatchability is like so important. And when there's a movie like that where I just like feel the urge to put it on, like when I'm in the mood, it's super special to me. I can see myself rewatching that maybe 10 times before the decade closes.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. And like I feel like every time I watch it, I like it a little bit more. But even the first time I watched it, I'd never like disliked it or anything. It's just there's some like those moments are jarring, and to me, this movie succeeds. He almost is mashing together like some of the best parts of Suspiria and Call Me by Your Name, in terms of what they each do really well. He like just pulls it together into a new movie, which is like really fucking cool. I love seeing directors like build on their past work and like, you know, I think it's cool to see anyone grow and get better at what they do, and I think it's fun to see that with directors. And it's just, you know, Timmy is in such a different role than he was in Call Me by Your Name. These characters could not be more different. And you know, his range I think is impeccable. And
Quick note, that's crazy that I looked up is that Wonka was his film after this. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, I mean, you look at like, yeah, he's really. I just made that video last month about him and Holland. Someone tweeted about that, like stupid ass comparison. But he's done so much other shit too. Like I think he's great. But this movie, I feel like is all about juxtaposition. Like it likes to make you feel comfortable and just create these like beautiful portrayal of like Midwest America. I feel like that's it's a part of the country where loneliness can be beautiful or it can be awful. And like you see like moments where things are terrifying, or when it's dark, or when they're around like in a close space with people that you know are dangerous. Like that isolation feels like so it's really intense. But then when they're just together with people that like love and accept each other and they're just enjoying like the beauty of it, like it can be incredible. I think it's just I think it makes it, again, really good use of the very particular place that it is in. And I feel like as an Italian guy, like doing that well with that section of America, I think is really, really cool.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on what Stone was saying before too. It's like it's kind of cool to see Timothy elevate a film from a supporting role, just considering like how big he is now. He's usually the center of attention, and I feel like his character's just like so edgy and drifty, and he's very gritty, and like he elevates this movie from that kind of supporting role where he still is a main focus, but obviously it's all about Taylor Russell. But yeah, it's interesting to see them mesh together, man. Like that might be one of my favorite like character connections in the past like 5 years, just off the top of my head. Like I really resonate with it.
Yeah. So you want me to? I just rewatched it. So I watched it in theaters, and I gave it a 3.5. And then I just got done rewatching today, and I also gave it a 3.5. So I do have some interesting thoughts about it. One is I'm surprised neither guys have mentioned this, and it's what I took away from the first time watching it and this time watching it. Obviously, the focus of the film is the romance, and I agree with Jack. Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet are really good together, especially Taylor Russell. I think she has a lot of emotions going on in her head, but you can see it on her face really well. But Mark Rylance is my favorite part of this movie. I think he's phenomenal in this film at doing exactly what he's supposed to do, and that's creeping you the fuck out.
Yeah.
But he's doing this. Yeah, he's my favorite part of the film by far. But I have some issues with the script. I know Jack was talking about how it mixes everything well together. I don't necessarily, in my opinion, think it does that good of a job, because one issue I have is when Timothy and Taylor split, and it's right after she meets her mom. And basically, she went to her mom, asked, and she wanted answers. She thought her mom could help her, and turns out her mom's crazy. Bit her arms off or whatever. And the reason they get in a fight is more because Timothy's really honest with her and says, "Hey, there's no answers," kind of a thing. Like, you either off yourself or you learn to deal with it, and that's basically it. And she gets upset with that because she wants answers and leaves. They get in the car, she pumps gas, or fakes the pump gas and bolts it. But the only thing that makes her go back to Timothy is the fact that she runs into Mark Rylance. That's the only thing. And I don't know if there's
I disagree.
okay.
I think it's the conversation where she finds out what happened with him and his dad.
Yeah.
And she's like, holy fuck. And wants to comfort him and then seeks him out. I think, and I like that, because I feel like she just puts aside her own feelings. Because I think when she runs away, it's out of a feeling of, like, he's not new to this situation. Like, he's a realist. He's like, basically like, sack up. This is what we are. I've been doing this. Obviously he's seen a lot of shit. She's new to it. She's naive. And I feel like it's just like, that's what you see when a lot of realists talk to naive people. The naive person's not going to like what they hear. But I feel like she's able to put aside that personal reaction and want to comfort him, because he went through something that is way worse than anything she's been through.
I also think that kind of ties into what you were saying before, Dan, where it's like loneliness is beautiful and it's also horrifying. And it's like, yeah, like she doesn't really know whether she wants to go back to him. She ends up going back to him. I believe that was the conversation that she had with Timothy Chalamet's sister in the movie. And it's also Timothy Chalamet also kind of just like embracing that, what he told her, like, get on with it, either kill yourself or know what to do. You know what I mean? He's real. His character is very like straightforward in what he wants. And I think his motives are displayed so clearly. But
well, I will say, I get what you're saying about the comforting the father, but the thing is, she's in Kentucky to see him. Like, she wants to see him. I know she comes across his sister first, but that's why she's there. That's why she's there. She's hoping to run into him. And I think it does give her the push to go and find him talking to his sister. But it's not like she randomly ran into him. Like, she's actively looking to be with him again. And some time has passed. I believe it's like a different month or something like that, because she had to make her way back to Kentucky. So that's my only, counter argument with that, is that she's purposely there to find him. And that does give her the push. But
she could still be there and not know exactly what she was going to do next. Like, we all have times in life where you might have like some kind of subconscious push or urge or like thought to be somewhere or do something, but like, if she might not still have followed through, I think. Like, maybe she was still like, she also was just figuring out what the fuck to do with her life and like where to go and what to do, and like maybe she was just gravitating
you don't
back
see
towards
that
him.
though. You don't really see that. That's what my issue is. You go right from Mark Rylance, and then she's in Kentucky. You don't see, oh, she's trying to figure out what she's supposed to do. You don't see that she's trying to figure out what she's supposed to do. It goes, they have a fight, she sees Mark Rylance, she's back in Kentucky. That's how quick those scenes are together. She has no time by herself at all, except with Mark Rylance. She gets creeped the fuck out. In my opinion, she just went back to Timothy, maybe because she was afraid and felt comfortable with him, which is fine, but that doesn't necessarily deal with the problems that she had in the first place of why they split, which is the fact that he was just blatantly honest with her. So I don't know if Mark Rylance, made her see the light and be like, okay, this is my only option or whatever. But that's kind of where I get what you're saying. That could have happened, but that wasn't shown.
I also just think them splitting is like, it's just an emotional knee-jerk reaction that she had. Like, it's her, like, honestly just kind of throwing a tantrum in the moment. Like, that's probably not something, like, she probably maybe, very soon after that was like, oh, that was a fucking mistake. But what are your, I guess, other issues with the movie in general?
Yeah, I guess the thing is that I guess the focus of the film is Taylor Russell and her dealing with loneliness, I think. But there's a lot of 2 or 3 side plots that aren't there the entire time. Like, you have the recordings with her father. That kind of cuts out 40 minutes like left in the film. Like, that isn't something that goes for the complete time. And then Mark Rylance is out of the film for like 40 to 50 minutes. And all of a sudden he's back in it. Timothy Chalamet, you don't see for 30, 35 minutes. And then also the driving force, I believed, of the entire film was her mother. And I was very shocked by how quick that happened. I guess she is the focus of the film, but like she's done with her mother and there's still like 50 minutes left. So it's kind of like also I find it very fascinating that she's never run into a cannibal before, but then they're all really easy to find each other with their like powerful like powers they have of smelling each other out. Like Michael Stahlberg, the one who played Timothy's dad in Call Me by Your Name, who's insane that he's playing this creepy, has barely any hair guy that he meets out in the random woods. I was shocked by how many cannibals she started running into as she like got out there, I guess. I don't know.
I think also like A, I don't know that we know that she hasn't met people before. And B, I think the point of like her whole existence was so sheltered. Like the whole point of that, like her story is that like her dad was keeping her basically in a box, and trying to keep her from the world. And I feel like this movie is about her getting out of that and experiencing the world for better or worse.
Yeah.
But
I'll say one more thing while I'm just thinking of it, because I want to remember what issues I had. I don't understand them. Are they able to control their urges? Because at the end, it seems like they're trying to have a normal life, and they've been having a normal life, maybe for quite some time. But are they still eating people, or are they able to control themselves? Because it seems very like they haven't done it in quite some time at the very end, and they don't even act like they are dying of like the urge to eat anybody.
I think they touch on that within like the first like 20 minutes of the movie though. Like I forgot how long her father said before she bit the girl's finger off at the sleepover, but he's like, it's been a while since you did this. But yeah, I really think it's just all a testament to how complex her character is. I think on the surface level, obviously they're cannibals, but it's like she's dealing with so many different things, abandonment issues from her father now and her mother. And this whole kind of love aspect with Timothy Chalamet, and then getting creeped out by what's his name? I don't know his name as an actor. I forgot it. You said it before.
Mark Rylance.
Yeah, Mark Rylance was outstanding in this movie for sure. Definitely warranted that's your favorite part of the movie. He's fucking insane. But yeah, she's a very complex character. I mean, obviously the focus is around her primarily, but yeah, I believe they touched on that within like the first 20, 30 minutes of the film after she bit the finger off in the recording when she's listening on the bus. I think her father said it's been like years since you've done something like this. She might have been so young that she didn't even remember doing it.
Yeah, I get that. I guess where I would think about a kind of argument of that is the fact that when she's with, because that is the driving force of the movie. Those are like the scenes you're waiting for, in a sense, is that when she's with Timothy, like I guess she didn't really feast right on the girl's finger, but it's the fact that I'm trying to think if she consumed it. Oh, she did. She was with Mark Rylance, right, and ate that woman who passed away, and then it doesn't seem like a whole lot of time passes, and she was with Timothy on the merry-go-round or the Ferris wheel, and then she's like, I'm hungry again. So it doesn't seem like a whole lot of time has passed since she's ready to consume more people.
I mean, I feel like they could probably do it every single day, or they can do it never. Like I feel like it's like any. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this movie isn't about like, it's not just telling the story, it's showing you like this is a movie about like A, homosexuality, and B, addiction. And like I think it's dealing with those two things basically the entire runtime.
But when you're an addict though, I feel like you have to show that you're struggling, and that's just the thing for me is like it doesn't seem like they're struggling at the end at all. Maybe when Timothy Chalamet is about to die and she finally gets the urge to just consume him, which is insane. But nothing about the last 10 to 15 minutes of this film seems like they're struggling at all. They feel like normal people, which if they are addicts and they're trying to control their addiction, I'm not seeing that anywhere. And I'm just shocked by that. I wish there was something implemented to show the fact that they love each other so much and they want to have a normal life so much. And you see that it is a struggle for them, but they're making it work somehow. And it's just not shown.
I feel like you've been seeing them struggle the whole movie. Like, I feel like addiction also just like isn't a straight line. Like there's going to be like peaks and valleys, and I feel like you see them go through that. Like you see them at their low. At least see Timothy like just straight up fucking murder a guy, like after like luring him like with sex basically. But yeah, I think you're seeing them after working through all this shit. And I think maybe they're trying to control it better. Like it's just about self-control. But like I think this is a better like queer story than Call Me by Your Name, because I think we see it the entire fucking movie, like starting with her and her friend at the beginning, like being so close with the other girl, and then she bites her finger, and then there's this like guilt and reaction, and she runs away. You have a parent who is trying to hide something about their child, not accepting it, trying to keep them away from the world, worried about it. You have Mark Rylance's character, who is an older person who has been lonely his whole life. He never dealt with his he never like dealt with who he was. He never processed that. He never found love and acceptance. He was probably coming up in a time. I mean, this is set during like the Reagan era, so at the time that was not good for gay people. AIDS panic was full blown. But I think he's a great stand-in for someone that just didn't have a good support system, didn't have a good family. No one helped him, and he becomes this old lonely person who he's a creepy character, but he also just wants to connect so fucking bad. And you can tell like he there is like a genuine like friendliness about him, even though he's so like we view him as this fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
He's so lonely, and you can tell that. And then, you know, with the scene with Timothy when he lures that guy, like that's obvious. I just think he told this amazing story about sexuality with the straight romance, but he used another element as the stand-in. I think that's really, really, really interesting. And I mean, it goes a lot deeper than that. I think I don't want to keep going, but I just think it's such an interesting story. But I also think there's a lot there about addiction as well. And you can kind of read it in a lot of ways, but it's just about finding yourself and accepting yourself and being with people that do that for you as well. So
I think it kind of like taps into the quote unquote like purity of Taylor Russell's character too. Because if you look at all the cannibals that we're introduced to in this movie, everybody else is uncertain and they're going through the loneliness theme, and they all kind of are attached to the main theme of the movie, but they're all committed to being cannibals. Taylor Russell's character is the only character who kind of isn't really, she's on the fence about it, and she didn't want to eat that first person, and then she wanted to stop. And then when they ate the kid that Timothy lured in with the gay tendencies, and she finds out that he had a kid and a family, and she kind of just like completely flipped out. And I think that kind of changed her whole motive. I think it shows like the purity of her character, and I think she's really kind of like in touch with the cannibalism, but not in touch with it at the same time. And she's kind of like learning more than everybody in the entire movie, which for me, it kind of made sense in that aspect.
I have so many thoughts. I would say it's like I feel like we're gonna be here forever. I will say that I totally agree that she's the only person who has these tendencies who doesn't like lean into them fully. But Timothy did. Maybe he did change. Like I said, I don't see a whole lot at the end with them changing, but maybe he did change towards the end. But I guess because we have that scene with them outside of the mental hospital, that he's like, you have to do it or you're gonna kill yourself. There's no like in between kind of a thing. I wonder what she did as a character after the last scene we see with them is her eating him. Like, was that the last straw, or does she like think what he thinks and then she just accepts the fact that this is who she is? I guess that's what makes that's what makes the movie interesting. But
yeah, I think there's a lot of perception and an interpretation like left open there. But for me, I feel like it's kind of like at least how I want to perceive it. I think it's her giving into that craving, and that's kind of how I like to look at it. I don't know if that's what Luca intended. Obviously, it's what Timothy wanted her to do, and she's like, I don't want to do it. Like, I'm not going to do that. But I think in the moment, it's her kind of giving into that craving and just the natural element of the cannibalism, and it really works for me. I absolutely adore this movie. I just want to go on the record and say that I have Bones and All as a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's an absolute masterpiece, and I will be rewatching it soon after this conversation. Get that 4th log in under a year.
Yeah, I think I have it at 4.5. Nice. And I love it, man. Like, and like the moments that are like, I like that it doesn't overdo the violence. But when it does go to it, like, holy shit, like, it stops you. Like, it just completely stops you in your tracks.
I like how animalistic they do it.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And the whole thing is just, like, such a ride and it keeps you so on edge. And as soon as you get comfortable, it just comes back to make you uncomfortable. And the ending is just, that fight is,
yeah.
just feels real. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
I think, love it or hate it, I think we could all agree it's one of the craziest horror romances in a while, for sure.
Yeah, and even if someone fucking despises this movie, find me someone that would rather, like, I'll watch 1,000 of those over fucking some AI bullshit algorithm generated Netflix movie that makes me feel no emotions. I'd rather just hate something for a reason. I don't hate this, but hypothetically, for a reason, than just feel no emotions at all watching something. So I would love more stuff like this, whether I like it or not.
I think that's just a testament to Luca too. He's got that vision with all his movies, and I actually love the comparison you made where he kind of meshed Suspiria and Call Me by Your Name into like one movie. I never really looked at it like that, but it's definitely a good comparison and analogy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's weird. I think we're gonna talk about challengers in a second. I think Suspiria there's such a physicality to that movie, and I feel like that physicality really translates to Challengers in its own weird way, because that's a movie about like so much about the human body, and I think Suspiria really is as well. I think both those movies are so physical, and I guess Bones and All to an extent as well. But do you guys want to get into Challengers?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I fucking love this.
Yeah.
I guess, Jack, how do you compare this in your head with Bones and All? Like, how do they stack up to each other in your mind?
My top 3 Luca in order would be Bones and All 1, Call Me by Your Name 2, and Challengers 3. I want to start off, since we're just starting off talking about Challengers. Zendaya can ruin my life and wreck my home any day she wants to, any day of the week, especially on Sundays. But as far as how it compares to Bones and All, I mean, I really don't think any Luca Guadagnino film can compare to Bones and All, just because of the toxic, repulsive subject matter and how out there it is. It's obviously his most out there narrative, and that's, for me, where it lands so massively. And I haven't really seen a director deal with so many different things and kind of mesh them as one. So for me, it doesn't compare to Bones and All, and I gave Challengers a 5 out of 5 on the first watch. I was a little trigger happy with it, but the more I think about it, I just absolutely love it. And it still doesn't compare to Bones and All for me. But I think it's outstanding. Like I said before, I think you give Luca Guadagnino a romance narrative and he's going to knock it out of the park. This one's obviously very different, more practical and realistic. And I think it's very relatable within its depiction of toxicity and friendship and toxicity within relationships. But the whole love triangle aspect just makes it very different for me. Mike Feist and Josh O'Connor absolutely brought their A game. I mean, they all did. I personally think Mike Feist has the best performance in the film. He's just outstanding. I think the tension and emotion that he was able to display, even with his facial expressions when he wasn't saying anything, was just outstanding. But I think where Challengers really thrives out of all of Luca Guadagnino's films is you have that love triangle where you have 3 actors really all giving their A game and meshing off of each other, and they have great chemistry between the 3 of them, and it's very different from all his other films, to be honest, and that's really where I love it.
It seems so mainstream. It's just, even though it has so much Luca in it. I mean, I was gonna say, is there any? Because I've not rewatched it as recently as you guys. Is there any romance necessarily in Suspiria? Not because I'm thinking of Call Me by Your Name, Bones and All, in this.
It's like a sexual movie. I think there's a sexuality to it, and I think, I mean, to really get into Suspiria would be an episode to itself. But I think there's a lot there about like Luca's like attacking like the idea of a matriarchy, which we don't see ever, but like how toxic and how awful women can be to each other, and when they're abusing power on each other. And I think there is a bit of a sexual nature there. Within the women themselves, but like it's interesting. Like, you don't see that ever. But yeah, I think, but it's not like there's no romance, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, it's more like sexual tension opposed to like romance in Suspiria, and it's very subliminal with all the other themes that are going on in that movie.
Yeah,
I'll say when Challengers opened, something that really shocked me, that I don't know if they could have given this away in the trailers, but it wasn't, was the fact that it wasn't nonlinear. I feel like when you watch the trailers, you thought you knew how the story was going to be told and you could see it. But the fact that they did that, puts it. It's so good. The way I do think sometimes there's so many different scenes, so many different timelines or time periods. I do think I have it at 4.5 right now. I think that some of those go by too quickly. Particularly, the one that happened in Atlanta, I think happened too quickly, and then also, I don't want to get any negatives. I think it's fantastic, especially the last 15 minutes. I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I totally forgot that they did this score until 3 seconds into it, and I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Really pumped for it. I will say, I wish I loved it. I've listened to the soundtrack ever since it came out, on Friday. But I wish it sounds very similar. Everything is great, but it's all the same like club beat nonstop, and there's like a little bit added instruments as the film goes on. But yeah, I thought the film is really good. You don't really know which relationship it's everyone went into it expecting a threesome, and it's so funny because of that one scene on the bed, which was hilarious, by the way. But in a sense, I was talking about it with my wife. I was like, is Art and Patrick the ones that are going to be together, or is Tashi, does she factor into it? I don't know if that could have been you know the film couldn't extend past where it ended because I don't think they knew what the fuck would have happened, so they ended it at the perfect time. It leaves you on edge, kind of similar to what Bones and All did, but with three people.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know where the story is going to go, but it ends you at the biggest climax that it could ever end you at, and it's perfect. I texted this to Dan, I think, and I told people this. I think that Doom Part 2, I still think is the better movie, but this by far has the better ending. I fucking love the end of this movie, just with the score, the cinematography, the acting, just the camera shots, like underneath the court, like with glass. I don't know how the fuck they did that, but that was sweet. That was really cool. I was like on the edge of my seat, and then they have that ball and that little triangle. Ooh, boy, I went nuts at that moment. I leaned over to my wife. I said, "He's about to put the ball there. He's about to put the ball there."
I was just gonna ask. We gotta confirm. Like, we all knew that was coming. Like,
Yeah.
I knew. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
I wasn't. I was like 1 minute before. I was like, "Oh shit, he's gonna do it." I totally forgot about it.
Jack, I think it was interesting to hear you talk about Spice because he's getting the least buzz in the movie, and I just don't think that's fair. Like, I think Zendaya gave the best performance, but like I don't think it's fair to just be like, I've heard a lot of people talk about Josh putting him above everyone. I don't think it's fair to put him and Mike on different levels. Like, they're very different performances, but they're both still excellent. So I like to hear you say that.
I mean, look, I don't want to call anybody out, but like, kind of tell me you're biased to a certain character and their narratives or their motives without telling me at that point. It's like, all right, I get, Mike Feist's character could be kind of like the letdown in the situation to a certain extent, but I think that's where he shines, and his emotion and his frustration and tension, and him knowing that Zendaya doesn't love him in the scene where, I don't want to spoil too much because it just came out, where she's like, "I'll leave you if you don't beat him." I'm just like, okay, like, dude, his facial expression, like, it sent me in the theater. I was like, this kid has just got a future. I think he's very special, and he shows it in this movie.
Yeah, and I think, like, I made a video comparing Zendaya to Terrence Fletcher from
That was
Whiplash.
really good. That was a really good idea, by the way. That was sick.
Yeah,
some people unironically were like, "Nah, she didn't do anything wrong," or like, she's an abuser.
Yeah.
She is an emotional abuser. And if anyone talks to you like that, whether you're a man or woman, whatever the fuck, get out. Because it's not okay. And they're both, I mean, they're all flawed. And that's the beauty of the movie, is like, that's real life. Like, everything is messy romantically. Like, nobody's perfect. And whoever you do end up being with, like, you got to accept some of that. But like, some people have to figure out their own shit. And she clearly is that. And I like, so it's Patrick and what's Josh O'Connor's name? Josh O'Connor's character?
Oh, Art. Josh O'Connor is Patrick.
Patrick.
And then Mike
Art is Feist, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Patrick, I like the character because he knows who he is. Like, and that's why he walks away from her, because he's confident, and he might be kind of a piece of shit, but he knows who he is, and he has self-respect, and he says, "Fuck you. Like, I don't have to do this. Like, I don't have to deal with this."
Yeah.
Whereas Art just kind of rolls over. And like, I think we've all been in that situation maybe at some point where like you tell yourself, it'll get better, or you know, it'll be worth it. This person will change, whatever. And it's just like you see him at that point where you can tell he's just been beaten down and beaten down and beaten down, and like his career is going down as well, and it's just in such a low place. And you feel for him, but like he also he walked into that, and it's like he saw it coming from a mile away. And when you let someone steamroll you like that, that's what you're going to end up with. So,
I mean, even with like talking about being steamrolled, he didn't like the Atlanta thing. Like he knew that happened and didn't bring it up, and that's on him.
Yeah, man. And like she knew she had him like wrapped around her finger like that. And I was trying to think, like, I talked about in the video, I feel like she got worse after she got hurt, but I also like I think she kind of always had that same edge. Like I don't think she actually got that much worse. Maybe she's had more time on her hands to like put into, you know, being how she was. Do you guys feel like that was a big? How do you feel about that moment?
I would actually say her getting hurt kind of elevated those characteristics and persona. Like once she got hurt, she kind of was able to go all into it, where she's managing Mike Feist's character now. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with sympathizing with certain characters more, but like, I think taking a side to a certain extent is kind of like missing the point of the movie. That the movie's great, that because they're all different and you're able to sympathize with all of them to a certain extent, but they're all their motives are very different. And quite frankly, they're all very toxic. They're very toxic. And that whole relationship, the friendship, the love triangle, I think it makes it super relatable. And that's what the movie is about. And I think some people are kind of missing the point of it, but to each its own at the end of the day. Think what you want, you know?
I saw someone say this, and I feel like people miss this as well, but why Tashi is the way she is. There's a difference in the social class between her and the two guys. Like the two guys are a bit more wealthy than she is.
Yeah.
The reason why she's famous and has all the success is because she's fucking good at tennis.
Yeah.
She wasn't, put in these, I think the guys were like in tennis camps, like growing up, like all their life kind of a thing. And I think that's why she has so much more drive and passion than the two of them. And like, she has to do this. This is why also you see, and I saw someone say this, is the fact that her mom is still around her and relevant, is the fact that like, even like Art doesn't care about his kid at all, just stuff like that. It's like, you're so wealthy and prissy in a way that little things like that don't matter to you. In a sense, like just staying the night in hotels, like that's something that maybe someone who hasn't had a lot of wealth might like to do. That's cool to them, rather than someone who's just been brought up that way.
I also think like the primary focus on the quote that our job is hitting the ball with a racket is just, I love how they say that like 3 different times in the movie. And I think it kind of just really gives you some insight on all these characters and how similar they are, where they can all be so different. And that's one thing that I love about that. Cause I noticed that they said that like 3 times in the movie. Like, yeah, I can't do nothing else. My job is hitting a ball with a racket. And it's like, it really kind of brings them all together where they're all so different, but they're all so similar. And I find it very relatable, man. I find this movie very relatable.
Yeah, I agree. And I think to your point, Stone, I think Art even more so. Like Patrick, at least when we're spending a lot of time with him, like he's so down on his luck. He's living out of his fucking car. Like he is willing to grind more and work more at that phase of his life. Whereas Art is just like, he's just kind of like whatever the fuck. And I think as a sports fan, like you've seen a lot of athletes that have that mindset at the end of their career. They're just like, fuck it, I'm collecting a check. He still wants to win, but like there's not passion. Whereas someone like Patrick, like he's on his last leg. Like he's trying to grind out one last something. Like he's not willing to go out. Where I feel like as Art's just kind of like going out with a whimper, and Patrick has put himself in that situation by a lot of his choices and maybe his effort previously. But I think Patrick is a more likable character than Art, honestly.
Yeah, I think it almost kind of like lies into like opposites attract too, because it's like Art's in Stanford, and it's like you said, Patrick's living out of his car, trying to get a little Dunkin' Donuts sandwich. Like, I just think the little details were great, and it made it super relatable for me.
Something that, do you guys watch tennis a lot?
I don't watch tennis at all, to be honest.
I was one thing that like a little tennis. Me neither, but this is something that I've heard is something that's really interesting. Like things that they added that are accurate is the fact that they have that scene at that Applebee's in Cincinnati, and I guess that's a very famous spot because tennis matches get done so late that that's the only place open in Cincinnati where tennis players would go to eat, kind of a thing. And she said the director, or not director, the writer, Justin Kuritsky's, he said that he got the inspiration for Tashi by looking at Djokovic's wife, who also used to be a tennis player, got hurt, and is now I think he watched the match between him and Rafael Nadal and saw how passionate and like messed up she was on the sideline just watching him. And you guys, have you seen the whole story about the writer of this and who he's married to and everything like that?
Yeah, he's married to Celine Song.
Celine Song, which is insane that both of them kind of wrote stories about a threesome. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder who the third guy in their relationship is. Like, who was this third person?
Yeah.
And there's also the fact that's really interesting to think about and just insane to think about how Dune Part 2 and Challengers were both supposed to come out last year. Like, can you imagine the Oscars? Like, because Past Lives and Challengers are very similar-ish, not tonally, but just in the subject matter and romance and stuff like that. Would have people preferred, this film over Past Lives last year when it came to awards and stuff like that? Who knows? And I don't know. I guess we'll see at the Oscars this year, but pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how I feel about that one, Stone.
Yeah, not a big fan. I will say, I know your gripe with it. This does a lot better, and I get because your gripe with Past Lives is the fact that the guy from Korea, there's nothing really to him, and you don't really get the connection between him and the main female lead. Like it's just like automatically she's smitten for him, head over heels, when they really haven't had a lot of interaction with each other.
Yeah, man.
This does that way better.
Yeah.
Way better. Just because in a different way though, because they're all shitheads. So the fact that they're all shitheads is why they're all destined for each other.
Yeah, but that makes it feel more real. Like
yes.
Past Lives to me, I'll go off on a 30-second tangent. The most fucking fleshed out character in Past Lives is the fucking white dude in a movie about immigration. What are we doing? Like that's the best character in the movie. The character you like, Greta Lee. That character is so flat, man. And their conversations are so flat. They talk about nothing. They talk about, what did you do today? Oh, that's cool. What did you do today? Cool. I don't get shit out of that. I don't know why they like each other. I don't know 5 reasons they each like each other. I don't know shit about Korea. We spent 10 minutes in Korea at the start of the movie. It was not enough time. You're just like, oh, I want to go to America and like, I'm too big for this place. Like, and then she's gone. And then like, it's just so flat to me, and there's no threat of anything happening, because if anything happened with him, they're just pieces. Like they just look terrible. Like it didn't fit the tone of the movie. You knew nothing was going to happen. It's just him simping and flying around simping, and then being sad, and then it's over. Like that's it.
I was hoping this would happen.
Yeah, I actually didn't know you felt this way about Past Lives.
I cannot stand it, man.
And I can't say I hate that the white dude's the most well fleshed out character. I can't say I hate.
I say, Jack, this is kind of cool, but there's this one line. We're going on a tangent here, but it's good because I want to talk to Dan about it a little bit. But there's this line where he says that you're from Korea and you have all these interesting things about you, and I feel like I bring nothing to this relationship. I'm actually married to an immigrant from the Bahamas, and I connected with that really well. I think she's super interesting, and I'm like nothing. So I was like that when I was watching that in the theater. It's really funny because she had no interest in watching the movie, but we were together at the time. So she was super tired. I don't know why, but we were like the only ones in the theater. So she's to my right, like I'm like getting emotional, and I look over to me. She's like fucking snoring, not snoring, but she's like asleep next to me. I'm like, okay, you would have really liked that, but I'll tell you later about it.
Yeah. I just wanted to know more of like what made her interesting. Like, please, that's all.
I would say I think that her love interest from Korea, the reason why there is not a whole lot of development there between them, I think he's a stand-in for the country itself. Like she doesn't want to let go, or she has a tough time, and that's why he means so much to her, not only for him himself, but the wife that she is missing, kind of a thing.
Then I feel like he should have been more interesting. Like I feel like he should have been a better character than if he's representing a nation. And like I don't feel like she cared that much. He cared way more. Like
For me,
You
it's
know?
kind of like a rare occurrence too in reality, where it's like, okay, the whole childhood sweetheart meant to be together thing. Like, okay, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not going to rule it out of the possibility, but on an average, it's not really reality. And then to kind of bring it back to Challengers, it's like that was kind of all like accidental, right place, right time, right sport. So like, I feel like it's definitely more relatable. I would go on record as somebody who loves Past Lives. It's one of my favorite directorial debuts. Shout out to Celine Song, but I think Challengers did handle that much better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I also like. I'm excited to see what Celine does next. I'll be there to watch day one. Like as a movie, it's awesome, but like the story to me, it just didn't connect.
Yeah.
And I think it was at its strongest dealing with the immigration aspect, and I wanted to see so much more of that. I wanted to see more at the beginning. It's like 10 minutes where you kind of see them like getting to know each other a little bit as kids, and then it's just like gone. And I just needed more there. I wanted to like connect to like I wanted to feel her attachment to Korea. Like that's kind of the main thing. But I think Celine did an amazing job, but it just didn't work for me.
It definitely makes sense. We got my best performance in Challengers. We got Dan Stone. I need to know, who was your favorite performance in Challengers, bro?
That's funny. So I wanted to talk about dance because I think he said Zendaya. Have you guys watched Euphoria?
Yeah.
No.
So here's the thing. I thought about it. Besides Euphoria, looking at her filmography, Zendaya's really never had a part like this, like a dramatic role. I never watched Malcolm and Marie. I know people have mixed feelings about it, but it's the fact that really people haven't seen her in anything. Let me look here. Besides Dune, Spider-Man, and The Greatest Showman, really.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like thinking about back on it more, she's very good at the role that she's given here and the part that's written for her. But I think I was just so blown away that she's acting phenomenally, but that it's just a good dramatic part in a sense. You know, I was just shocked by like not seeing her with blue eyes or seeing her, you know, with fucking Tom Holland right next to her. I was just like, wow, she's actually a really damn good actor. But Josh O'Connor was the one that I was really blown away with.
I love how we
So-
got 3 different picks.
yes,
That's awesome.
yes. I think he does a really good job of kind of being gross, but kind of being hot at the same way, being a
Yeah.
dirtbag and wanting. At the end is so interesting because he, at the same time, I don't want to spoil, but at the same time, he is a competitor against art, but at the same time, he wants the best for him. Like he's trying to push him as far as he can. And that's what he cares about most is he's always been a little bit better than art, I think, in tennis. And I think that this is finally what happens, is finally what pushes art to the edge of fully, you know, having that relationship. And that's what they're talking about is this relationship is the sexual drive of this movie. And I saw someone say you don't actually see a sex scene in this movie. Not really. Like Art and Zendaya, oh no, Patrick and Zendaya almost have one, but it's the fact that when Zendaya says like that, you know, just volleying back and forth, like that is what feels so good. That is what gets her that rush. And you finally get that between Art and Patrick at the end, signifying maybe that the two of them possibly, you know, are into each other, and then they like hug or whatever. But
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it gives us the answer of are they into each other? Like
Yeah.
they're just making out. I mean, like there's something there. Like
I don't know. No, well, I don't know. Yeah, they
But
didn't.
I
I will
think
say, they didn't. If that was me, I would have reacted a little bit more. They're kind of just chilling. They're like, "Oh shit, I thought that was her."
It is crazy though, because like I feel like the sexual tension in this movie compared to Luca Guadagnino's other films, where we obviously know that Luca Guadagnino is not afraid to show a sex scene in a movie, Call Me by Your Name. But yeah, no, the fact that there isn't a sex scene and the sexual tension is just so high is just very impressive. I actually didn't think of it that way.
I say it's the tennis. It's that relationship. That's
Yeah.
what you see a lot of tennis, and it's really incredibly
I-
shot and really engaging.
I've seen a lot of tennis fans too who like tennis, and they say that the game is like that in real life. That it's very intimate, it's very technical, it's almost like chess. It's almost like a relationship, and I like the way that they touched on that in the film, and I think it's very realistic. And I've never loved tennis so much in my life after watching Challengers. I mean, geez.
yeah, I think it's also almost like a fight. Like it's like it's the same thing. It's that like you're locked in, and it's about as personal as it can get. And I feel like you can kind of like come to understand someone like fighting with them. And I feel like tennis is the same way. You kind of like you get to know someone's game, how they react. Tennis is so emotional, like about controlling your emotion. You can lose your head and just the game's over. Like you can just lose it. Chess is the same. I played chess my entire life. Chess is the same way. It's very personal, and it's very much about understanding the person you're playing against. So, but I wanted to really quick. So when you were talking about the like sexual stuff, I think with Patrick they have that kind of like verbal back and forth, and then when you see when Art, like physically with Art, he always seems like he's kind of trying to like reach and like get her attention physically and kind of like move towards her, and she's kind of just like nah, like always kind of just. It's reflected really well.
That's a good point because even the I don't know, they have that scene in the car where you see the when between Patrick and Tashi towards the end. You don't necessarily see what happens, I guess, but it seems like she still has a motive in some way. There's no actual feelings there for her. She's always trying to get something out of everything. But the one time I feel like you see back and forth, like two characters, there's three of them interacting in a way like into each other is the churro scene. It's like he's really like Patrick is like, Art, what did you do? Like, tell me what you did, man. Like, I'm proud of you. I know what you did. I know what you're trying to do right now between me and her. Like, just let me know. And he's like, I don't want to tell you, but I might. Kind of a thing. That might be the best scene in the movie to me, besides the ending, which is fantastic. But
yeah,
some of the imagery and cinematography, man, is just out of this world. Like that one shot where she's looking at both of them, and I was, oh my goodness, dude. Like,
it's like what's it called? The diopter shot. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah. Oh my
goodness. Diopter. That was sick.
Truly sick, impressive. The whole movie, from a visual standpoint, just looked great.
What do you guys think about the fourth character? Because this is something that's not present in any other Luca Guadagnino movie that I've watched. Is the soundtrack is so important in this movie rather than any of his other movies. It's like it's purposely so in your face for a lot of the film.
Yeah, I think it helps set like the pace and the tone. Like it helps keep you, and also helps keep you like locked in. Like the dialogue. The dialogue
plays over the dialogue at points.
It's never like dialogue never rests. Like it's always, and that's when I'm thinking about this in Dune. The script is just better. This script is better. Like straight up, in my opinion. Dune just like is doing so many other things. Like it's such a spectacle, but like this is also a spectacle in its own way. And like people were talking about this today, like this has made $15 million. Like people got to go fucking see this movie. Like Zendaya has like all these like go fucking watch the movie. Like support the person you support. Like I don't get it. Like we cry about the movies we get, and then we get something like this, and it's gonna flop. And like Amazon has it, so like they probably don't actually care about that. But like, come on, like please, like go watch the movie. Everyone likes it. Like
I see so many people too are like, oh, it's Zendaya. She's not a great actress. It's a tennis movie about a threesome, which that scene ends up being bait. But I can't stress enough for like new film bros or cinephiles, or if you're trying to get in the movie, to follow directors, man. Because like this whole podcast right here is themed off of Luca Guadagnino today, and it's like that's the whole reason personally that I was going to see it. Zendaya never really sold me as a great actress until this film, but I knew Luca Guadagnino was directing it, so I'm like, dude, this is going to be stylistic. It's going to have a lot of substance. The cinematography is going to be great. The soundtrack, which I've heard a lot of people complain about the soundtrack, kind of go back to that, where they're like the techno feel kind of took them out of the scenes. And I mean, look, to each its own, it's subjective, but I just don't know what you were watching. I thought it fit the film well thematically. I thought it really matched the theme from an energy standpoint. The whole movie's kind of like this adrenaline-inducing blast of a time, and I thought those scenes added a lot of substance, not only to the dialogue, but the sequences that they were used. But yeah, follow directors, man. I cannot stress it enough. Like, that's the best way to go forward when you're trying to watch new movies, in my opinion.
And then speaking on directors, when you talk about the music, I think there was an interview with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross where basically Luca, this is all Luca. Like they put it together, but they didn't come up with it. Luca went to them as like, I want 90s like techno, like dance music. Like he told them like straight up, like that's what I want for this film.
Yeah.
Like come up with that kind of a thing. And it's funny that you're mentioning, I hate, because Dan, you know how much I care about box office and stuff. Yeah, it cost $50 million to make this and only made 15 million opening weekend. That's not good. It was good to hear that they paid Zendaya $10 million to be in this because she deserves that. I think she does have that star power to warrant that much money. I will say one thing that is good is, hate to bring up this glorious film, but Saltburn exploded on Amazon Prime and like had a second, not even a second wave. It had like its one wave of like giant popularity when it hit that streaming service, which is
This
not
will too.
Netflix. What's up?
This will too.
That's what I'm saying. This is going to be on
But
Amazon
like, go
Prime.
see it in the fucking theater.
Yes,
Go
yes.
see it on
Yeah,
the fucking
yeah.
screen. Like,
Yeah.
There is other hope though. That's what I'm saying, is that this is the MGM. Amazon owns MGM. Like, this will be on Amazon Prime, and hopefully, I think it will have the same exact success and buzz around it when it eventually gets there. Now, I do think everyone should go see it though, but they don't have a lot of time because there's a lot of new movies coming out. May's hitting. There's so much shit coming out that I feel like it's just gonna get lost in the sauce, unfortunately. But
yeah, man. Like, Fall Guy comes out this weekend. Everyone's just gonna go see Fall Guy. It's like, I'm not. No disrespect. I'm seeing it tomorrow, but like, come on, man. Like, and this is not some like artsy ass movie. Like, this is a movie
yeah,
regardless of if you appreciate like the direction, the technical aspects, like, just you like the movie. Like, anyone will like this movie. It's relatable, it's fun. What's not to like? I don't know.
I'm taking shots. I'm taking shots all day, bro. Fall Guy looks like a Netflix release, bro. Like, and it's gonna end up making more than Challengers, which is, it speaks volumes. It's just a shame. I didn't know that it was doing that bad at the box office, man. You guys just informed me that.
Yeah,
that's a shame. Only 15 million.
Yeah, and something that's also, there's something called Cinema Score also that I follow a lot. So Cinema Score is like, I don't know if you know this, Jack, but it's like basically these random polls that they do out in the country where they'll ask people as soon as they come out of the theater, like, what do you think about this movie? And it's a really good indicator of word of mouth. Like, if you have like Dune Part 2 has made tons of money. It had an A Cinema Score, which is really good. The only scores that don't do well is usually horror, which is C, because people don't know what people are just dumb when it comes to horror. So horror doesn't really matter. But with this, it's a B plus, which isn't terrible, but it's still not like an A minus or an A or an A plus. So there's a lot of people winning this film expecting something different, and they got something that they weren't expecting.
Like, what the fuck were you expecting? Like, what are you expecting? You just want to watch sex? Like,
yes, that's exactly what I think.
Come on,
that's
man.
exactly what I think.
Grow up.
You tell them. That's what I'm thinking, because that's what everyone went into this movie. They're like, oh, I can't wait to see the threesome scene. They saw Zendaya making out with two dudes. They're like, oh shit, here it comes. Oh, they got a big surprise when that scene came out. That scene came. I liked it. I thought
honestly,
it was really
a hilarious like subversion of expectations from like the trailer to that the execution. But
I think that's where that score went down. Everyone's like, oh, all these dudes were like, oh man,
there's no threesome. Oh man, come on, yo.
Yeah, but all in all, this was on my top 10 most anticipated for the year, and it was so fucking good. I loved it. I can't wait for his next movie.
Queer. Queer's his next movie, I believe, with Daniel Craig.
That's soon, right?
Yeah, it's been in the talks. I think they filmed it. I don't know. I think it is very soon.
Yeah, thinking of Luca and Daniel Craig. I mean,
that'd be good.
I love Daniel. He's one of the best. But yeah, Luca's just on a really, really good run right now. I hope he keeps it up. Like,
yeah.
Luca and Yorgos, friends.
What's the ranking for these four for us?
Oof, Zach, you want to go first?
I got mine ready, man. So yeah, obviously, Bones and All number 1, Call Me by Your Name number 2, Challengers number 3, and then Suspiria number 4. And I just want to throw out there that if we're including a bigger splash, I have Suspiria at number 5. I have a bigger splash at number 4.
I'm watching A Bigger Splash tomorrow, so I'm excited to watch that. This is going off based on what I put Suspiria, like what I rated it my first time around. I'll go 1 to 4. So I go, I'll still go Call Me by Your Name 1, Challengers 2, Suspiria 3, and Bones and All 4. But Bones and All still a 3.5 out of 5. I think he makes good movies. Like, I really
that hurts my soul right there, Stone.
I know. The 3.5 out of 5. Not bad.
I would go Challengers, Bones and All, Call Me by Your Name, and then Suspiria is not close. But it's really tight at the top. I love all 3. This is a random thought, just really quick. I love in Bones and All that musical cue where they have that like that cluck, that like note that they play, and then the theme starts. I love that. The way they use that, it just like grabs your attention anytime they do it. I just really love that. I forgot to say that, but
What is that instrument they're using? Is that a harp that they're using in there or something like that?
I don't know. It kind of sounds like a guitar, but like
Yeah.
it could be something else. I don't know. I'm gonna look into it literally because I'm just curious. But I love that cue and how it kind of just like grabs your attention. He's music in all of his movies, man. Electric and just it amplifies. And we just talked about like streaming movies and stuff. So many movies just like misuse music these days. It's just like seeing just like NPC ass bullshit music drown everything out, make you feel nothing. And it's like when you use it right, it just amplifies so well, like whatever emotional impact you're looking for. So I just wanted to mention that, but he's really good with his music.
Yeah, those might be my two favorite things about Luca and his directing style. Is I think his settings and his soundtracks elevate his films so much, and it's present in every single one of them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. Like, just pulls you into wherever you are. You just feel like you're there, and you're down to hang out for whatever the runtime may be, unless it's Suspiria. But so
I'm gonna
cool.
need a rewatch of Suspiria from pretty soon, bro. I'm gonna need a rewatch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Tilda Swinton as that therapist. You got to check that out. Like as soon as you see him, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's just older dude Tilda Swinton.
Yeah. Jack, any closing thoughts in general here on any of these Luca, or any other movies soon you're really excited about? Anything you want to just say in closing?
Luca Guadagnino, definitely one of the best working directors right now. Very consistent on a nice little run. I highly recommend, like I said before, for everybody to find those directors that you like their style or you like their films and kind of just follow them. I think that's the best way to kind of watch movies nowadays. I think it'll make movies do better at the box office. For me personally, that was the whole motive for going to see Challengers, that he was directing it, and now I come out of it and I look at Zendaya as a superstar actress who's great in a lead, and she's honestly able to hold her own. And I wouldn't even be surprised if she gets a little Oscar nomination for this performance. I'd be very happy about it. I'm not saying she should win very early on the year, but I'd love to see Zendaya get some love at the Oscars for her performance in this movie. Absolutely outstanding. And then as far as like my most anticipated for the rest of the year, I'm a big horror guy. I'm a big Robert Eggers guy. So that Nosferatu remake is calling my name. I can't wait for it.
I think that's me and Dan's most anticipated too.
Yep.
Let's go.
It was Mickey 17, but then we said goodbye to that, so that's all right.
Unfortunate, but yeah.
Yeah, they're saying that still might technically be, if it's right at the beginning of January, it still technically could be a 2024 release, but I don't know. It might get pushed back again. But yeah, Nosferatu is going to be insane. I'm so excited.
I will say something cool that he said is like about Zendaya is like this kind of introduced me to Josh O'Connor, and I know there's another movie that just got released in theaters that I didn't get a chance to see because it wasn't really on my radar, but I've heard lots of good things about La Chimera. I believe what it's called, the neon film. I know a lot of my friends have reviewed it, said it's really good, but that makes me want to watch that film just because I didn't know about him, and now, let me see what else he's in, kind of a thing. And I know Mike Weiss hasn't done much, but I forgot that he was in West Side Story, the Steven Spielberg one, and he really hasn't done much. Hasn't done much since then.
I think the main thing that we should all take away from this is people go watch Challengers. There's so many great things that you're gonna take out of it. So many great stuff that you're just gonna end up loving, man. Go see this movie in theaters on the biggest screen possible before it's out of theaters, because you're missing out if you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Stone, any closing thoughts?
I'll go watch Challengers. I don't know if anybody said that, but yeah, I think that's smart. It's just a fun movie. Like if you don't, Luca, like I said, Luca, all of his themes are here in Challengers with romance and even how he shoots people's bodies. Like I feel like it gets really up and close to their face, and he wants us to see, like he's just an observer about these things that are going on. But I think he realized, like, hey, let me try to make a film that's still my style, but make it more mainstream. And I think he did that without, corrupting any of his like values or what he wants to put into a film. Like it's a perfect movie for entertainment and also substance at the same time.
Yep.
And I feel like that's very rare.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll learn or be pondering the Fall Guy for a week or 2 weeks after I watch it. To be honest, I might be entertained, but I don't know if I'll be still thinking about it.
Yeah, and I just to close, I really agree with you. I like a lot of times I think directors go so deep thematically that they forget to make movies fun, and I'm down for that, but the average person might not be. Or it's all fun and there's just fucking nothing there. It's all just neon lights flashing in your face while you eat popcorn, which is cool also. But when they can meld together, like, it's awesome. And he's just getting better and better. Yeah, go see it. Jack, thanks for hanging with us for this long. We really got into the nitty gritty on these. This was a good conversation. Thanks to anyone else who hung out with us. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Guys, I gotta turn this off on my computer, the recording. Conor will edit it out. But thank you, Jack, for spending the time. Sorry for starting late again.
Be up, man. You already know. Anytime.
Yeah. Good to talk to you, man.
Yes, sir.
Take care.
And yeah, Stone, I gotta follow you on TikTok, bro. Follow my TikTok. I don't think I got you on there.
Actually, I just followed you today. I followed you today, I think.
What's your TikTok page?
It's called Stone Medical Movie Man.
Okay, all right. I'll give you a
Stone
follow.
shit is great too, Jack. If you like my stuff, you'll like his stuff.
Me and Dan do. He's better. He like verbalizing, but me and Dan have the same thing where we just talk about random shit. I talk about the randomest shit ever. All movie related, but just random shit.
I gotta join up one of those lives that you guys got. There's always like 30 fucking people in there, so I'm like,
so we're about to go live after this, I think, right, Dan? You still want to do that?
Yeah, for a little bit. Yeah, Jack. Anytime you feel like it, just throw an invite, throw a request, and I'll pop you in, man. If you ever feel like talking, they're fun. It's just always like random people. We just shoot the shit, talk about whatever, and sometimes there's a pretty good audience, so it's fun.
Yeah, but I appreciate you guys having me up, man. I hope to do it again.
Take care, bro.
Already know. Have a good night. Tell Conor I said congratulations on the baby.
Will do,
man.
See you, man.
All right, you still want to go live?
Yeah, let me just grab my computer. I'm stressing because the very beginning, like, I had my computer, I had to mute my computer and mute the microphone, but I don't know if it takes the audio just off the recording or if it has to be picking it up. So the very beginning we might not have the audio, but worst case, we can have Conor. We'll just say something at the beginning like X happened. Yeah, Jack Nerd, and we didn't miss any of the actual meat of it. So
yeah,
I'll see. But I'm gonna go turn it off on my computer upstairs.
All right, I'm gonna take my dogs out and then I'll log back on.
Okay, cool. All right, see you soon.